There's something magical about walking through an old garden, where the soil remembers hands that worked it decades ago. Our grandparents and great-grandparents knew things about survival that we've mostly forgotten. How to coax food from stubborn ground, how to make a nickel stretch until it screamed, and how to turn vegetables we've never heard of into meals that kept families alive. During the Great Depression, when banks failed and bread lines stretched around city blocks, victory gardens weren't just hobbies, they were lifelines. Families planted every square inch of yard they could find, growing vegetables that could survive harsh conditions, store through winter, and fill empty bellies when there was nothing else. These weren't fancy heirloom varieties sold at farmers markets. These were tough, reliable plants that our ancestors depended on, and then somewhere along the way, we forgot about them. Today, we're looking at 15 forgotten vegetables that grandparents grew to survive the Great Depression. Hardy, humble plants that deserve to be remembered for the role they played in keeping America fed during its darkest economic hours. Number 15, salsify, the oyster plant nobody remembers. Salsify sounds like something from a fantasy novel, but it was a Depression-era staple that grew in gardens from Maine to California. This long, white root vegetable earned the nickname oyster plant because when cooked properly, it supposedly tasted like oysters, a flavor most struggling families couldn't hoard to enjoy otherwise. Grandparents planted salsify because it was incredibly forgiving, growing in poor soil and surviving frosts that would kill more delicate vegetables. You could leave it in the ground all winter, digging up roots whenever you needed them, which meant fresh vegetables even when snow covered everything else. It disappeared from American gardens because its slow growing looks like a boring white carrot, and frankly, most people today have never heard of it. But during the Depression, salsify represented hope, the hope that you could have something special on your plate even when times were impossibly hard. Number 14. Kohlrabi, the alien-looking survival food. Kohlrabi looks like something that landed from outer space, a bulbous, light green orb with leaves shooting out in every direction. German immigrants brought this vegetable to America, and during the Depression, it became a quiet hero in gardens across the Midwest. The name means cabbage turnip in German, which perfectly describes its mild, slightly sweet flavor that worked in everything from soups to slaws. Families loved kohlrabi because the entire plant was edible. You could eat the bulb raw or cooked, and the leaves worked like any other green. It grew fast, didn't need much attention, and could handle cold weather that sent other vegetables running for cover. Kohlrabi faded from popularity because it looked strange, Americans forgot how to cook it, and grocery stores focused on vegetables that looked more familiar to post-war shoppers ready to leave Depression memories behind.
Number 13. Rutabaga, the forgotten root cellar champion. The rutabaga is the vegetable nobody can spell and even fewer people can identify in a grocery store today. During the Great Depression, though, this large, yellow-fleshed root was absolute gold because it stored better than almost anything else. Families would harvest rutabagas in fall, pack them in sand or sawdust in root cellars, and they'd stay fresh for months, sometimes until spring. They tasted like a sweeter, milder turnip, worked in stews, could be mashed like potatoes, and stretched scarce resources further than you'd believe. One rutabaga could feed a family for days when prepared carefully. It disappeared from American tables partly because it became associated with poverty and hard times. After the Depression ended, people wanted to forget they'd ever needed to rely on such humble food. Today's gardeners might grow heirloom tomatoes and fancy peppers, but they've forgotten the rutabaga that kept their great-grandparents alive. Number 12. Mangels, the giant beet that fed families and livestock. Mangelwurzels, usually just called mangels, were massive beets that could grow as big as footballs and served double duty during desperate times. Technically, they were grown as livestock feed, but when families were hungry and every calorie mattered, mangels ended up on dinner tables too. These giant roots were incredibly productive. One plant could yield 10 pounds or more of food, which made them precious when you were trying to feed a family on nearly nothing. Grandparents would cook mangels until they were tender, sometimes mixing them with other vegetables to stretch meals, sometimes feeding them to chickens and pigs that would eventually feed the family. They tasted earthy and slightly sweet, not as refined as table beets, but nobody was complaining when the alternative was going to bed hungry. Mangels vanished from gardens when Americans no longer needed to grow animal feed in their backyards, when supermarkets made food abundant, and when the memory of eating livestock feed became something people wanted to forget.
Number 11. Fava beans, the ancient protein source. Fava beans have been feeding humans since ancient times, but during the Great Depression, they became crucial protein when meat was a luxury most families couldn't afford. These large, flat beans grew in cool weather, actually improved the soil they grew in, and provided substantial nutrition when people needed it most. Italian and Mediterranean immigrant families already knew how to cook fava beans a dozen different ways, and they shared that knowledge with desperate neighbors learning to survive on vegetables alone. You could eat fava beans fresh, dry them for winter storage, or even use the young shoots as greens when nothing else was available. They disappeared from most American gardens because they take some work to prepare. You have to shell them twice, removing both the outer pod and the waxy skin on each bean. After the Depression, when convenience became king and meat became affordable again, most Americans decided fava beans were too much trouble for what you got in return. Number 10. Parsnips, the sweet root that stored all winter. Parsnips looked like white carrots that stayed in the ground too long, but during the Depression they were treasured for their sweet, nutty flavor and incredible storage capacity. These roots actually taste better after a frost, which meant families could leave them in the ground through early winter, harvesting them as needed when other fresh vegetables were just memories. Grandparents roasted parsnips, boiled them, made them into soups, and even used them as a potato substitute when potatoes ran out. They were reliable, productive, and asked for very little in return, just decent soil and patience. Parsnips fell out of favor because they look plain, take months to mature, and Americans developed a taste for instant gratification in the prosperous decades after World War II. But in those desperate years when every meal was uncertain, parsnips represented certainty, the knowledge that even in January you could dig something good from the frozen earth.
Number 9. Turnip greens, the leaves nobody wastes anymore. Most people today think of turnips as just roots, but during the Depression, the greens on top were often more valuable than what grew underground. Turnip greens were fast-growing, productive, and packed with vitamins that helped prevent diseases caused by poor nutrition. Grandmothers would harvest the outer leaves continuously, letting the plant keep producing while the root developed below. You could cook turnip greens with a little bacon fat if you had it, or just boil them with salt and serve them alongside cornbread to make a complete meal. They tasted peppery and slightly bitter, strong flavors that reminded you that you were eating something real, something substantial. The practice of eating turnip greens faded as Americans moved away from Southern cooking traditions, as supermarkets made pre-washed spinach convenient, and as people forgot that the best vegetables are the ones where nothing goes to waste. Number 8. Jerusalem artichokes, the native tuber with the confusing name. Jerusalem artichokes aren't from Jerusalem, and they aren't artichokes. They're sunflower tubers that Native Americans cultivated long before Europeans arrived. During the Depression, these knobby brown tubers became survival food because they grew like weeds, produced abundantly, and didn't care about poor soil or neglect. You could plant them once and they'd come back year after year, multiplying underground like edible savings accounts. They tasted nutty and slightly sweet, worked raw in salads or cooked in soups, and provided calories when calories were precious. Jerusalem artichokes disappeared from gardens partly because they're so vigorous they can become invasive, taking over spaces where you might want other vegetables. But mostly they vanished because post-war America wanted vegetables that looked clean and familiar in grocery stores, not strange dirt-covered knobs that required explanation and elbow grease to prepare.
Number 7. Celeriac, the ugly root with beautiful flavor. Celeriac is what happens when celery decides to become a root vegetable, resulting in a knobby brown bulb that looks like it crawled out of a haunted forest. During the Great Depression, European immigrants grew celeriac in their gardens because it stored well, tasted delicious, and reminded them of home cooking. The flavor is like celery, but deeper, richer, more concentrated, perfect for soups and stews that needed to feed many mouths with few ingredients. You could store celeriac in root cellars for months, pulling out these ugly treasures whenever you needed to add flavor to an otherwise bland meal. It required almost no care beyond basic watering, and one plant could feed a family several meals. Celeriac faded from American consciousness because it's genuinely ugly, requires peeling and careful preparation, and grocery stores preferred vegetables that sold themselves with good looks rather than requiring customers to understand them. Number 6. Collard greens, the Southern survivor. Collard greens were already a staple in the South, but the Depression spread their popularity northward as people learned that these tough, productive leaves could grow almost anywhere and survive conditions that killed more delicate vegetables. Collards didn't care about heat, handled cold better than most greens, and kept producing leaves from the same plant for months if you harvested carefully. Families would slow-cook collard greens with whatever pork scraps they could find, creating meals that were nutritious, filling, and required very little meat to flavor a huge pot. You could feed a dozen people with one bunch of collard greens, some cornbread, and hope. They never completely disappeared, especially in the South, but they became associated with poverty and rural life, so upwardly mobile Americans after the Depression often abandoned them in favor of more sophisticated vegetables that didn't remind them of hard times. Number 5. Sea kale, the coastal vegetable time forgot. Sea kale grew wild along coastlines, and during the Depression, families living near the ocean harvested this silvery blue vegetable that tasted like a cross between asparagus and cabbage. It was one of those plants that connected people to the land, reminding them that food didn't have to come from stores or even from gardens. Sometimes nature provided, if you knew where to look. The young shoots were blanched and eaten like asparagus, while the leaves could be cooked like any green. Sea kale was tough, salty, and completely free for anyone willing to walk the beaches and cliffsides to gather it. It disappeared from American tables because foraging became unnecessary once supermarkets spread across the country, because fewer people lived close enough to coastlines to make gathering practical, and because the knowledge of how to identify and prepare wild vegetables simply wasn't passed down after the Depression ended. Number 4. Cowpeas, the Southern pea that saved farms. Cowpeas, also called field peas or Crowder peas, were already popular in the South before the Depression, but hard times made their virtues impossible to ignore nationwide. These legumes fixed nitrogen in the soil, actually making the ground better for next year's crops while feeding families in the present. You could eat cowpeas fresh, dry them for winter storage, feed the plants to livestock, or plow them under to enrich exhausted soil. They grew in heat that would kill other crops, didn't need fertilizer that nobody could afford anyway, and produced abundantly even in poor conditions. Families ate cowpeas with cornbread, made them into soups, or served them with whatever greens and onions they could scrape together. They faded from popularity outside the South because they were seen as peasant food, because frozen vegetables became convenient alternatives, and because post-war prosperity made people want to forget they'd ever needed to eat survival crops. Number 3. Dandelion greens, the lawn weed that became dinner. During the Great Depression, people looked at their weedy lawns and saw free food that nobody had to plant, water, or care for. Dandelion greens became emergency vegetables, slightly bitter leaves that could be harvested from any patch of ground where they grew wild. Italian and French immigrant families already knew that young dandelion greens were delicious in salads or cooked like spinach, and they taught their struggling neighbors to see weeds as resources. You could harvest dandelions in spring when they were mild and tender, or later in the season if you were desperate and willing to tolerate more bitterness. They cost nothing, required no garden space, and provided genuine nutrition when nutrition was scarce. Dandelion greens disappeared from American plates when lawns became status symbols that had to be perfect and weed-free, when eating them became a sign of poverty rather than practicality, and when supermarkets made buying greens easier than foraging for them. Number 2. Sunchokes, the diabetes-friendly tuber. Sunchokes are another name for Jerusalem artichokes, but they deserve a second mention because of their unique nutritional properties that made them especially valuable during the Depression. These tubers contain inulin instead of starch, which means they provided energy without spiking blood sugar, crucial for diabetics and others struggling with health issues while having limited access to medical care. Families planted sunchokes along fences and in unused corners because they grew tall, provided privacy, produced beautiful yellow flowers, and created pounds of edible tubers underground. You could ignore them most of the year and they'd still produce, asking almost nothing and giving abundantly in return. Sunchokes vanished from gardens because they caused digestive distress in some people, because they spread aggressively and became difficult to control, and because Americans preferred potatoes that behaved predictably and didn't have complicated names or confusing histories.
Number 1. Victory Garden cabbage, the reliable workhorse. Cabbage wasn't forgotten entirely, but the particular varieties grandparents grew during the Depression, huge, dense heads that could be stored for months and fed families through entire winters, those have mostly disappeared from modern gardens. Depression-era cabbage was about survival, not convenience or fancy cooking. One cabbage could become coleslaw, sauerkraut, soup, and side dishes across weeks of meals. Families would harvest cabbage in fall, pack the heads in newspaper and cool cellars, and pull them out one by one as winter stretched toward spring. The outer leaves might get a little tired, but the inner head stayed fresh, crisp, and ready to become dinner. These storage cabbages required patience. They took months to mature and weren't as tender as modern varieties, but they were reliable when reliability meant the difference between eating and going hungry. Modern gardeners choose quick-growing varieties, baby vegetables, and convenient options because we've forgotten what it's like to need food that will still be good in February, to need vegetables that store without refrigeration, to need plants that absolutely positively will not fail when everything else does. Our grandparents' gardens were classrooms where lessons about survival, patience, and gratitude were taught without words. Every rutabaga stored in sawdust, every dandelion green added to a salad, every kohlrabi harvested from frozen ground represented a small victory against circumstances that could have crushed the human spirit. These 15 forgotten vegetables aren't just agricultural history, they're monuments to American resilience, reminders that our ancestors knew how to make life from dirt and determination. Maybe we don't need to grow mangels or forage for sea kale today, but remembering that we could, that our grandparents did, that food security once meant knowledge instead of just money, that's worth preserving. If this journey back to Depression-era gardens stirred something in you, hit that like button and tell us in the comments whether your grandparents grew any of these forgotten vegetables, or if you remember any others that deserve to be remembered. Subscribe so you won't miss our next exploration of the practical wisdom and forgotten skills that made America what it is today. Until next time, remember that every family story, every old recipe, every memory of gardens past is a seed worth planting for the future.